Hey guys, my name's John Hunter, and with Custom Animated Intros CAI, I wanted to go ahead and take the time to throw out a tutorial video on aerial motion tracking. I know when I started looking for this, there wasn't a lot out there about it, still not a lot of detailed instruction about it. So I wanted to go ahead and push this out to you guys in the hopes that it's going to make somebody's work, their workload a little bit easier. So, with that said, I'll be pausing, when I start to render previews or when I start doing the motion tracking. So it'll pretty much be instantaneous for you guys. I want to keep this tutorial as small as possible. All right, let's go ahead and get started. In your comp, I've already got my clip in here that I want to track uh, right here. Just kind of running through it real quick. I know it's not smooth. I haven't previewed anything yet. Now, first thing you want to do on your main clip, you want to go ahead and hit Control plus D, and that will actually duplicate the clip. I always like to lock my first one, highlight the clip that you actually want to apply the motion tracking to, the new clip. And you got to understand when you're motion tracking through Mocha AE, it comes bundled with After Effects. I think pretty much since 2008. So if you've got any version of After Effects, um, CC since 2008, it should come bundled with it. Okay, first thing you need to know, wherever you have your cursor at, whatever point in the timeline, that's where the tracking is going to start. When you come out of Mocha and you apply the mask, and when you're working, that's where it's going to apply your effects, start your tracking unless you select otherwise. So with that said, go ahead and move to where you want to start. You always want to leave a little bit of lead time in it. Also, if you want to track in Mocha, you always want to have it on full quality preview. Okay. So with that said, we'll go ahead and select the clip. We've moved our scroll bar to the point in the timeline where we want to start. I'll come up here to Effects. From the drop down menu, I'll choose Effect. Mine is listed under Boris Effects Mocha. I'll choose Mocha AE. Okay. Obviously, it just pops up. We don't really want to mess with any of the drop downs. We want to go ahead and select Mocha. Click once. Takes a little bit to open. Once it's open, you see that right here, that is where I'm at in the timeline. First thing I want to do is set my endpoint right there. Now I'm going to scroll through this a little bit, and I will take it probably right over here, because what I want to do is be able to see the full property, and there will be some difficulty because the house actually is going to run along this edge, but I'm going to set that as my out point. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to scale this up for the full view of my screen right now. I actually want to see my full clip and versus, how much clip I've got and how much I'm actually tracking in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a midpoint in the clip right here. Now I use a lot of hotkeys, so you got to know that to zoom into my screen. Okay, I hold down the Z key. You see how the icon changed to magnifying glass? You push in to zoom in, out to zoom out with the Z key pressed. That's about as easy as it gets right there. If you hold down X, you get the hand tool. Where generally in After Effects it's the space bar, it's the actual X to move around your screen once you have it zoomed in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to track this area right here, all the deep green grass, and where we get into the building, I'm going to track the outside of the patio all the way back and back by the garage and up along the side of the property and across the front. So let's get this started. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select my X spline, and we will go ahead and literally start it. I'm going to zoom in to do this, move the screen up. I'm going to start it right here on this pillar. I'm outside of the pillar, and as I run over, I'm actually going to kind of bring it straight over because I know these things aren't straight from having previously worked in it. I'm going to actually click at certain points, and even though it's curved, don't worry about that right now. You want to drag it up to right before the building, and on this part, if you can see, there's a little fence here. I'll bring it to just the bottom part of the fence, and I will keep dragging it up. Just follow that fence line all the way to the back of the property, and we'll zoom in there just so we can see it as best possible. Like I said, just worry about the blue line right now in your actual spline. Everything else we can change. And we will bring it to the outside of the fence. And again, we're hitting X and we're dragging down. We're going to bring it right up here where the crossbar meets on the fence, behind the stone. I don't know what they call those things. Bring it to the outside here, and we'll come along the fence line to the edge of the roof line to the back patio. And on this, we'll take it right to the outside, bring it back down. And it does get a little tricky around this area, but what we're going to do is we're going to line it up, not with this right here, and I believe that's actually a gun range that they have in the basement. We're actually going to put it right here on the edge of it, and then follow that, continue to follow that line down around the outside of the columns on the fence. And we'll actually select one right here just so we have an extra spline, and then we'll wrap it up by right clicking, and then we will zoom back out. Let's see, move this thing to the center where we can see them all. We'll select just one of these things by left clicking on it, and then we'll hit our Control A, select them all, and we will actually pull them all to the extent so it tightens up all the edges. Okay, and just kind of run your mouse over, and you'll see that the property actually extends beyond the lines. We'll fix that later. That's another option. So what we want to do right now, and I know that we're going to have a lot of areas where the tracking jumps off, but like I said, we picked a midpoint. Now we're going to go ahead and hit this right here, which is track backwards. Okay, and you can see that we are on our single level that we just created. I don't really mess with any of the settings down here. Everything generally works as is. And at that point, I want to go ahead and start tracking backwards. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this tracking, and I'm going to go ahead and pause until the tracking's done, so you guys don't have to sit here and watch it go frame by frame. And I'll be right back. Okay, guys, we are back on, and you can see that it's tracked all the way back to the first part. You can see my tracking is way off. What I'm first going to do is, you see where my point on the timeline is, it's tracked back to all this purple, blue, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go ahead and put a keyframe there, and I've got it set, by default it comes up to the A, which is auto keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and select that option, and we're actually going to see if we can't kind of move the whole thing back somewhere that is reasonable. At that point, we're going to kind of zoom into it and start moving those points back. We don't have to do too much. We're going to click off screen once, just, I don't know, one of those pet peeves, I guess. Start moving it to the corner of the posts, and we will go from this side over. We know we follow that fence line. So hang on, let me get that just a little bit closer. And I want to zoom in just a little bit more. And remember, zoom is holding down the Z, and moving is holding down the X. So we know that we followed the patio. We followed this right up to that fence line. So Move that up closer, and that. Let's move these right back where they should be. You'll have to do this every time. It never works like it's supposed to. Well, I don't know if they actually intended it like this or not, but it's never been brainless for me. So let me go ahead and kind of look how this line looks. Looks good. That is on the outside of those brick columns. This runs up, and we will drag it back here. And just all we're doing is clicking and holding on to our marks and moving them back in place all around. And let's get this real quick. I think we did that on the inside. So we're just going to follow it over. I know it cuts over the building. We will address that here in just a second. And like I said, this is an extreme example where we're tracking, and that right there stays, where we're tracking a lot of areas around the house, which normally you would just track the property. So we're going to keep it just like this. Let's zoom out, kind of see what it looks like. Okay. Now with this, we've got our point there. So it's been my experience most of the time that when you get your keyframe set, very rarely does it really mess up between those keyframes. I like to check that though. In this case, I'm actually going to delete that keyframe because we've got this other one. So we'll go back to our first one, and we'll go back to our second. We see it. Now what I like to do is just kind of tap in the middle and line those up one more time to kind of help keep it on track. You're going to have to do this. Nothing goes flawlessly. It always is going to lose tracking information, but not anywhere close to what it used to. So let's move these back, zoom in a little bit more. And this is one of those things where, you know, it's going to take a little bit, but it's not going to take near what it used to. And it does absolutely make a difference in presentation as far as how your customer sees the product. So, and the presentation on the property. So absolutely don't overlook this option. Okay, now we're going to go track on the outside of that. So we can move that one a little bit further in. Going to bring this down to that edge right there at the top of the fence. Again, we're going back around it. And if your vision's a lot better than mine, then it's not going to be quite so hard for you guys or time consuming. And it's not really that time consuming. It's just, man, I really hate to zoom and admit to the fact that my eyes are going bad like this. So let's bring this down to bottom of that fence line. And let's see, right about there. Let's zoom out, kind of see how it looks. We'll move this one in just a little bit more. And this one probably out just a little bit. And let's see. All right, I feel like that actually looks pretty good. Now, like I said, we're going to go between points. And you'll see that in this scenario, everything kind of stayed pretty good. What we're going to do is hit the key with the plus symbol next to it. Make sure we put a tracking key there. Come click this one. This one's off a little bit, so it's going to take a little bit more editing and bringing it in. It is not a long process. You know, we've already done it, what, 3 times here? So like I said, it gets easier every time. Bringing it in, bringing it up to the line. And let's keep on moving down the line here, zooming in. Bring this up to the edge. Bring that up to the corner. And that's what I thought is one of these had gotten off kilter a little bit. That's okay, not unexpected. Okay, so let's drag that one out. General right now. Bring this one, and of course we're taking that one back up to the edge. This one, let me get it on the screen. Goes all the way to the bottom and top. Same thing. And like I said, your tracking is probably not going to be quite this extreme. But you know what? It always works better to see an extreme example than an example that doesn't cover anything. Okay. And let's zoom out, see where we stand. This one's a little low, a little high. Move it, pull back out. Now, because we've already actually made adjustments in this, we don't have to worry about setting a keyframe. Okay, it's already set. And at this point, because it caused so much problem in the beginning, I actually still stepped through the keyframes that I've got. I guess just to kind of make sure that everything stays in line where I can see that this one's off. So I'm actually going to move the whole set right here and zoom into it. Probably be some minor adjustments on this one. Bringing it to the bottom. Following it along. Probably just a little bit further out so it's not right up on it. Okay. And of course this one doesn't need to go in that far. This one back out. That one still looks good. This one can go a little lower. And again, like I said, these hotkeys, and I'll repeat myself on it. The hotkeys are the Z, hold it down to zoom in. The X, hold it down to move within the screen. Okay. And so there we go. I think that actually looks pretty good. All right, so we'll go to the next keyframe. Keyframe. Keyframe is following along pretty good. These are what we've already got set. Let me step between these two. Still looks pretty good. Going to add a keyframe there. And this is a pretty wide spread, so I'm going to go ahead, and it looks like everything pretty much follows through smoothly right there. So I'm going to add a keyframe. And again, just kind of step through, make sure everything's kind of following along. Add keyframes between any wide spaces. You can step through your existing keyframes like this by hitting this right arrow. When you get to the end, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and track forwards now. And so I'm going to hit pause. If you want to go ahead and pause the video right here is a good spot, okay? Okay, guys, as this thing is tracking, I see it coming off, and to avoid what we did earlier, I'm actually going to stop the track, and I'm going to, hit a keyframe right there. And I generally just hit the keyframe. I know it's going to make one when I generate this anyway, but I just kind of want to bring this back on track as much as I can to prevent, more edits uh, at the end of this. So hang on just a second. Let me make these edits again. Of course, click and Z to zoom. Bring these up along the edge of the top of the pillars. And let's see. And when I was actually posting this on Facebook and said, hey, I haven't been able to find a lot of good tutorials on this, somebody actually called me out and said, what are you talking about? There's a lot of good tutorials on this. Uh, and there are some tutorials. I don't know if I would call them good or bad. I would just say that they were lacking in the fact that, man, I wanted to know a lot more about it, and that option just wasn't available. The information just wasn't on there. So, depending on your need, depending on what all you are going to track, okay? There are a variety of different tutorials out there. I am not putting any of them down, okay? I'm just saying that I needed a little bit more for my needs. I generally, track a lot more detailed areas. So just a regular square pattern doesn't necessarily work for me, or, maybe a triangular, plot of land doesn't necessarily work too well for me. So I like to, you know, have a tutorial that kind of steps through worst case scenario, if you have a lot of tracking points. So we've gone ahead and set that. So let me go ahead at this point, just because I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and move back toward the center of that point and that point, which was my last couple. And truthfully, everything looks to be on par. So I'm going to hit a point there. We'll move it back a little bit further. A couple of these can probably be moved a little bit, but no, maybe not. Everything still looks good. So what am I going to do? I'm going to set a tracking key right here, going through it. Everything looks good. Going to set a tracking key. Going to go to my next tracking key and continue tracking from there, and we'll go back to pause. Okay, guys, so we're back. I can see that it's actually run off. Again, not near as bad as what it had done. So zooming in, because this is about the last step of the actual tracking. There are other options that you have, but let's go ahead and line these up real quick. Okay. And again, let's zoom in. And hey, for any of you guys that have noticed that I'm a little nasally, believe it or not, that's actually my normal talking voice, but also coming off of a sickness. So there's that too. Okay. So hang on, let me kind of take a big picture view of this. Across the top, we're under the roof line. We're actually going to go under the roof line considerably more. So across the tops like that. So we'll bring it through to where it essentially matches that line. And a lot of this is going to be guesswork. But with respect to time, we're going to kind of stretch through these pretty quick. And you guys can fast forward this all you want. Line it up with the edge all the way down. Let's see, where was our next tracking point? Right here. And let's see, that one goes all the way down, losing a little bit. So, that's good. We'll leave it right there. Zoom out, kind of get a picture of the whole thing. Looks good. It's already set my keyframe. Kind of go in the middle here. Everything still looks good. set another keyframe, and back here I notice there's a white area. There we go. Everything looks good there. Tracking key right between here. Now that's one thing I miss is where I click. I'm always a little shy of the center. Tracking key here. Everything looks good still. Go ahead and hit a tracking key here. Tracking key here. Tracking key. Now this button up here actually saves your current project, so go ahead and save that. And we're actually going to hit the arbitrary exit up here and close it out since we've saved it. Highlight, do not move your deal. When we go into Mocha where it says matte, all we're going to hit is create AE masks. It takes a little bit for it to come up. When it does, go ahead and highlight down here on your clip and hit U. And that way you'll see all the tracking keys for that area. Now we'll go ahead and run this up a little bit right here. Now don't move your guide, because at this point we're also going to go ahead and add, let's see, I believe it's effect, generate stroke. Okay. And on this, we're just going to hit a start. And then you can highlight this again, hit U twice, and it comes down. There's your start key. We're going to go ahead and run this up to 100. And we're actually going to select our color, which would be yellow. Use whatever you like. Yellow, white, blue, doesn't really matter, whatever you like, whatever stands out. I always run the size up a little bit, and then I'm going to hit all masks. Okay. Now, as far as that start key, yeah, I had it backwards. Sorry, start at 0. It's actually not backwards, but you kind of run it so you can take a look at it. Now you can switch this down to quarter, so you can kind of preview it a little bit. So if we set it to 0 on the stroke to 100, and then we move forward in the keyframe a little bit, then we'll set it to 0. It sets the keyframe. You can see over here that wherever you created, you see that it tracks it. Now, we'll not do the whole thing. We'll probably just kind of do a preview about here. And I'm on quarter. And while I'm at it, go ahead and just hit save. We'll go ahead and I'll hit preview. And because mine takes a little bit longer probably than any of yours, I'm going to hit pause while I preview. I'll come back when the preview is ready. Okay, so my preview is ready as far as what I just outlined. We'll go ahead and just kind of play through it, and you'll see how it draws out. And it drops out a little bit there. I don't know why. Let's take a look at it, like right here. So let's go ahead and kick the quality back up. I did not expect this. We'll go back into Mocha. And we'll see what's going on. Okay. So obviously between that tracking key and that tracking key, there's a drop. And see, right there it is. So what I'm going to do is actually go to this tracking key and delete it. This tracking key is good. That tracking key is good, but I'm actually going to delete that one as well. Okay. That tracking key is good, so I'm actually going to forward track from that tracking key to the next again. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it. Okay, I'm unpausing in the middle of it because I did see a drop. Where was it? Okay, so maybe it corrected itself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and set another tracking key right there, right here. Then we'll go back between because it was a trouble area just to make sure. We will actually save it again. And now on this layer, we're actually going to go back. I go back ahead of the tracking key. I'll hit the first, and then I'll just go ahead and delete that layer. And then on Mocha, I'll go ahead and create that AE mask again. And it should copy it right back with the changes made. Takes a little bit. There we go. So let's come down here to quarter, and we will try to preview it. Okay, so we're back, coming back to it. I can go ahead and play my preview now, and I can see that it starts, runs along the pattern, no drop, just fine. So one thing that I do like to do, let's go ahead and hit U to the drop down. On my start and end path, I do like to ease these in and out. And while you're doing that, you may want to go ahead and drag it out for a bit of time, just in the interest of smoothing it out. So when you're doing the path, it's kind of a slow roll out and a slow roll back in. Okay, now I've got a limited amount of time before I actually have to go back to my real job. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop right there. We'll save the project. And what I want to do now is duplicate this layer, and we're going to create a mask so that we're going behind the buildings. So we'll hit duplicate. At this point, we're going to get rid of the stroke. We're actually going to go back to, I say the beginning. We're going to hit this Mocha again. Oh yeah, we got to go to full screen. We're going to hit Mocha again. Now this time, what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete the current layer mask on this one, and we are going to create another layer mask. Okay, but this time we're going to go ahead and actually position the. Hang on just a second. Okay, we're just going to surround the house, for lack of a better word. Okay, and we'll get it right here. And anything where we know that the line goes under the house. So like right here on the edge, tighten it up, tighten it up. And you don't really have to go to the roof line, but you kind of want to go that level. Okay, and like I said, you wrap it up, just hitting the right click. We'll select all these, hit Control A, pull them all out to the extent, then select once. We'll scoot this over. We're actually going to create another one. And on this one, the edge of the barn isn't really an issue. It's this fence edge right here. And let's zoom in to take a look at it. It's this roof line right here. So we want to make sure, because the fence line comes down by it. So we're actually going to go ahead and select the whole barn. Just hit right, select them all, Control A, pull to the extents so we know that barn roof is covered. Zoom out. Okay, we obviously start at the beginning. We want to just kind of make sure that all flows well. So we're going to go ahead and track this. I'm going to hit you on pause after it starts tracking. Okay, guys. Now this section actually goes pretty quick. We're going to go ahead and put a point here. And keep in mind, on this level, what we are doing is making sure that the house edge, okay, is highlighted so that if the tracing line comes through it, that it's actually going to hide the line. Okay, so just following this. These don't need to be anywhere close to that side. I think maybe right here though. And let's go up here to the other one. And let's go ahead and zoom into it. I'm just worried about the corners. Anything that the line is going to go behind. So all this stuff right here doesn't really matter. Okay, so we're going to zoom out. And we're going to come here in the middle. I see the lines are actually looking pretty good. Minor fixes. The eave of the house, the barn, that all looks good. So we're going to go here. Eve, barn, everything looks good. Tracking key. Eve, barn, everything looks good. Tracking key. Same with here. Eve, barn, house, tracking key. Everything looks good. Might want to touch that up just a little bit, because I know that that is where the line starts coming back into view. Here, everything looks good. Tracking key. Here, everything looks good. Tracking key. And here, everything looks good. Tracking key. We're going to go ahead and save that. Go back into our deal, and on this one right here, we're actually going to get rid of this layer, the mask path. And then on this one right here, under Mac, we're going to actually say apply the matte. Okay, so essentially I'll show you what we're looking at. Okay, if we take the bottom layer off, okay, that is essentially, you know, okay, let me take that off. That is your mask that we have the stroke effect on. Okay, this is the mask that we're using just for the stroke. Okay, so we're going to add all those together, hit quarter, come back, and we will go ahead and preview that. And I will let it do its thing. Actually, I'm going to hit pause, let it do its thing, and I'll be back. Okay, guys, so you can see that the line is actually tracing behind the buildings because we added that second mask. All right, we're going to go ahead and let this finish up here real quick, just a couple more frames. In the interest of conversation, the second layer that you actually have the mocha and the stroke applied to, you could actually apply a drop shadow to the stroke, blur it out. It does make it look a lot nicer, a lot cleaner. Okay, but you can see how with this effect, it isolates. Let me get over here. When we add the last mask, it actually hides the stroke. As far as on the stroke, you know, you can always go back to it and kick up how, you know, what your stroke size is, anything like that. Okay, you can make it as big, as yellow as you want, any color that you want, so no worries there. Guys, I'm sorry this took so long, but that is it in a nutshell. If you have any questions about it, certainly reach out to me, all right? All right.